I'm having a good day, too. It was called No Collusion, No Obstruction.
There was no evidence of the Trump campaign collusion with the Russian government's hacking. The special...
Nope, stop. Today is a legendary day for spin. Everyone with a stake in the Russia investigation is out there trying to shape how you process what's in the Mueller report. But we're gonna do something different. We're gonna try to ignore the spin and the bluster and forget about all the preconceptions that brought us to today. Instead, now that this massively significant document is actually in our hands, we're gonna look at what it says. Warning, get comfortable. For starters, the report confirms something incredibly important and troubling, the thing we always forget to talk about, which is just how insidious and well-organized the Russians were in screwing with the 2016 election. The Mueller report makes it clear that this effort was designed to benefit Donald Trump and harm Hillary Clinton through Russian social media campaigns and a hacking campaign that stole documents. The report then examines the first of two foundational questions. Did the Trump campaign help that Russian effort? Now, everyone's been talking about this as collusion, but since collusion isn't a crime, legally speaking, it's better to think about this as possible conspiracy. Going into today, we knew the names of a lot of players in the Trump campaign orbit. Some big fish, some really small fish, who appear to have had all kinds of weird contacts with the Russians. There's George Papadopoulos and his meetings with a mysterious foreign professor. There's Carter Page, who's out there trying to broker a meeting between Trump and Putin in Moscow. There's Paul Manafort, who gives internal polling data to a Russian contact. And you've got Roger Stone and Jerome Corsi making suspiciously accurate predictions about when WikiLeaks would be dumping what. Then, of course, there's that Trump Tower meeting, where Russians were supposed to give Donald Trump Jr. damaging information about Clinton that was advertised as being part of the Russian government's effort to help his dad. The question was, could all of this stuff have been happening on its own without an orchestrated effort by the Trump campaign to coordinate with Russians? Could there be this much smoke without actual fire? What Mueller says is, yeah. There was lots of dubious behavior by people affiliated with Trump, but it didn't add up to conspiring with the Russian government. Even the Trump Tower meeting, which seemed to Mueller watchers to be the closest thing there was to a smoking gun, turned out to have been what the Trump team said it was. Once they finally came clean about it, a bust. Mueller does say that the Trump campaign knew about the Russian efforts to release stolen documents, and that they were happy about it. And many of the small-time guys in Trump's orbit did want to connect with Russia for this or that. And there's some sketchiness here with missing or redacted evidence, deleted or encrypted texts, and uncooperative witnesses. All that said, a top-down conspiracy just didn't happen. But the fact that his campaign wasn't in cahoots with the Kremlin wasn't enough to protect Trump from his own worst impulses. Even the suggestion that Russia helped Trump win was enough to set the new president on a mission to stop law enforcement from asking questions about it. But does that mean he obstructed justice? Well, that's the second major question in the report, and Mueller pointedly declined to reach a conclusion. Now, there's been a lot of speculation about whether he held off on making that judgment because of a famous opinion by the Office of Legal Counsel that says a president can't actually be charged with a crime. In other words, why accuse the president of crime if you can't actually charge him with it? In the report, Mueller makes it clear that was in fact his thinking. He goes out of his way to say that even though he won't reach a conclusion on obstruction, he can't say the president didn't obstruct. And you can see why. There are 11 key issues and events Mueller's team investigated that raised questions about whether the president was trying to obstruct justice. No, we're not going to go into all of them, but a few key points. The Mueller team looked into the conduct involving former FBI Director James Comey, who was looking into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, who'd had contacts with the Russian ambassador and may have promised to soften American sanctions against Russia. You'll remember Trump famously asked Comey to let go of the Flynn stuff because Flynn is a good guy. The report reminds us that there's substantial evidence that Comey was fired because he was unwilling to publicly state that Trump was not under investigation. The report says the president had a motive for wanting to put the FBI investigation behind him, because a thorough examination could uncover things about the campaign and the president personally that might be considered crimes. The next sections deal with the president's efforts to remove the special counsel and impede that investigation, which started after Comey got the axe. Today's new fun fact: upon learning that a special counsel had been appointed, Trump, quote, slumped back in his chair and said, "Oh my God, this is terrible. This is the end of my presidency. I'm fucked." Trump later asked White House counsel Don McGahn to have the special counsel removed multiple times. There is so much more in the report about how he pressured then Attorney General Jeff Sessions to try to take control of the investigation again, and how one of the president's personal lawyers kind of threatened Flynn. Overall, what Mueller does is lay out the case against Trump, as well as the shortcomings of the evidence, in astonishing detail. I went through the report with Mary McCord, a law professor and former Justice Department official who actually makes a cameo in the report because she accompanied the acting AG to the White House to warn that Mike Flynn might have been compromised. Mueller sort of summarizes a lot of things but doesn't seem to analyze in depth. He doesn't quite connect the dots for you since he wasn't trying to make a charging decision. Right. What do you take from that approach?
There's a couple of different ways he could have done this. If you go through the report, at the end of his discussion of each one of these, possible obstructive acts, he then goes through these three elements. What was the obstructive act? What would be the evidence going to the nexus? And what would be evidence of the intent? And lays a lot of things out there and then just doesn't reach a conclusion. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to apply those prongs to each of these. He could have just put the evidence out there and let everything else.
Someone else apply the prongs and figure it all out.
And again, he doesn't fully apply the prongs because he didn't reach the conclusions. And he does all those steps except that last one.
It seems like he is laying the case out for Congress. Run with it or don't.
I mean, whether that was his intent or not, I'm not going to opine, but it is there. It is there for Congress to read through and have a roadmap if that's where they choose to go. Sure.